Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Just Know Mill. In today's episode, Mill upset she wasn't in the delivery room. Greetings from the other side. Mil told me to go ask my parents. I grew up in foster care. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Mill upset she wasn't in the delivery room. CW, childbirth, pregnancy, slight birth complications. I'm F26, DH is 26. This is something I severely need help with, to the point where I created a throwaway account. Please note I have a therapist, but I think I need to also hear from a community that has similar experiences. So, Mil has always been overpowering and narcissistic, and really I can write novels on all the things she's done to me and my DH, as well as Sil, but to sum it up, whenever she gets angry or has a bad day, everyone, whether involved or not, must feel her wrath. It's 50-50ths what you'll get. She either yells and berates or goes cold and silent. And then, whenever she's okay/happy, she showers us in gifts pretty much. Upon finding out I was pregnant, she was thrilled to death and absurdly nice to me my whole pregnancy. She bought a sh*T load of presents for my son, saying I'm going to be the best mom, yada, and was concerned for my health and if I was resting enough. The whole 9 months went zero conflict, which I should have seen as a red flag in itself. I had to be induced due to hypertension, and was induced on a Thursday night, which I stupidly let her visit me in the hospital, as well as my mom. I thought nothing of it and I assumed she wouldn't actually be there for the birth itself. Next day rolls around and there was potential for C-section. I was drugged up, on magnesium drip, couldn't walk, muscles were weakened, etc. My husband didn't tell her when she should visit the hospital, and I didn't push it in case sh*T went south with the birth. We thought obviously she didn't expect to be there for the actual birth itself. Boy, I was wrong. When we told her our son was born, she took a long time to get to the hospital. At this time I thought nothing of it, and when she finally came to the hospital she didn't ask about if I was okay, how labor went, etc. It's whatever, and she immediately picked my son up, kissed him, and stuck her finger in his mouth. He was fussy, and she was talking to me through him, asking why I wasn't feeding him, but he already just ate and the nurses were about to transfer me to the other room. The nurse explained, with Mil in the room, that if I don't get my blood pressure down I'm at risk for seizures and or other complications. Mil didn't really care. But, pretty much at the end of the night I asked for all visitors to leave because I was so out of it from all the medication. So, here's where it gets bad and why I'm on the verge of a panic attack every day. We tried to contact her the next day so she can visit. She ghosts us, doesn't respond. Sunday, discharge day, we try contacting her again and she still wouldn't respond until finally she does and acts rude to my husband on the phone. When she finally shows up at the hospital, she completely ignores me and my mom and just starts berating my husband. She says our hospital room is messy, tells us we can't formula feed and breastfeed, and is just really laying it on my husband and tears apart his parenting or anything he does for our son. My mom tries to make nice with her and make conversation, and then she ignores my mom. When my son was finished breastfeeding, she legit ripped him from my arms saying, "Let me take it," and starts talking to him as if she is his mother legit showing him that she bought him toys but only for the nursery at her house. That's right. He has his own nursery at her house. So, after my mom leaves, for once in my life I finally stood up to her and just went at it. She reveals to me she's upset because she wasn't there for the actual birth, that she was disappointed when she got to the hospital he was already born, and that I should not have made visitors leave after he was born because people were here to see the baby, so it didn't matter I was recovering from a difficult birth. She said I got what I wanted, and that we should then move past this, that this doesn't impact my son at all. So, I said we weren't going to move past this. I told her her attitude is the reason her son never calls, etc. etc. As of now, we are almost no contact, but she keeps messaging my husband as if my husband is our son. She says things like, "Happy 1 month, baby's name, love you," but then doesn't talk to my husband at all, only that she is cutting him off from the phone plan. Apparently she cried to my sister-in-law too, and my sil told her she needs to apologize if she wants to be in my son's life, but legit she would not apologize. It's been over a month. So, I don't know what to do, because I feel guilty and second-guessing myself like I am in the wrong for not allowing visitors to stay. I'm worried I'm in the wrong for not letting her see her grandson and not playing nice anymore. My own father is a narcissist too, and I have severe anxiety and depression from it. I've never been in a conflict of this scale. Husband says we should remain NC until she apologizes to us both, though legit she doesn't think she's in the wrong. And unfortunately, I feel like I'm the one tearing the family apart. Also, I'm paranoid she's going to show up at my house and I'm an idiot and gave her keys to my house in case of emergencies. Sorry if this is too long of a post, I needed to get it out because I feel so panicked and I think I have PPD/A from this honestly. And this is just scratching the surface, but I don't want to make this longer than what this already is. Edit. To make this more specific, I'm just very scared of her and her tendencies to explode, and that her behavior is unpredictable, and how to get over this. Please change the locks at your house. She sounds like a narcissist and who knows what she's capable of doing. Listen to your husband and change the locks. And your SAL about the apology MIL owes you. This, you did nothing wrong. Protect yourself and your family from her, she has no rights to you our son. Step 1, change the locks. Now. Do it now. Step 2, follow your DH's lead, he has the right idea. Step 3. The next time you feel guilty for throwing out guests/excluding her, think about it if the roles were reversed and she was in having a colonoscopy, for example, would you feel offended if MIL didn't want you there during it or wasn't up for guests immediately following the procedure? Of course not. Not a single sane person would, but she's infected with baby rabies, or grandma fever. It's all about her and her being a grandma and her having the perfect experience. It should be focused on you, the baby, and your DH. Let her explode, just remind her that you're not responsible for cleaning up her bits after she does so. You just gave birth to a wonderful baby, and you and your little family should be all you are thinking about. Relax, and give yourself a huge break. Your MIL will either get over it, or die mad, and you have no power to make that choice for her. She is trying to make your baby's first months all about her, but you can control that. MIL can wait. Let your husband be the buffer zone. Have the locks changed, and make sure there is no way to see into the house from the front door. Then, if she comes, and you don't want to deal with her, just don't answer the door. She can have a nursery in her home, it's just a waste of money for her. She can sulk all she wants, you have more important things to deal with. Being afraid of someone exploding is the weapon they have against you. Which is why they do it so often. Disarm her. What is the worst she can do? Evaluate the situation. Will she kill you? Will she injure you? Will she actually hit you? Any of the above, she can go to jail. You can press charges. You can get a restraining order. Short of murder, you win. Will she have a temper tantrum and scream at you? Big deal. You've been screamed at and survived. But you don't have to allow it again. You screamed at me and we are done. Bye-bye. Hello NC. Will she have a temper tantrum and not talk to you? Yay. Keep it that way. Say no. 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 Meanwhile, seek couples counseling. You both need to handle sh*t like this because you have a child and the child naturally is going to pull this stuff. Learn how to curb it before it gets passed to another generation. Thank you all so much. I'm definitely going to be changing the locks and continuing the NC. I truly appreciate every response given. Definitely talk to your therapist about your feelings of guilt, but try and understand that it's not you tearing the family apart. It's 100% her pushy, steamrolling behavior. It's actually kinda scary how pushy she's being. There's zero justification in the world where her behavior was okay. I agree with the other commenters, let your husband lead on this one, change your locks. After the birth of my first, my anxiety and panic was quite intense. PPD can happen even up to a year after birth, IIRC. You are not allowed to feel guilt. Caps lock is how I feel right now. You had a baby removed. You were at risk for seizures. And this woman gave nary a fuck. She won't even cobble together some mumbled apology to get access to her precious grandbab. So screw her. Change the locks. Hold fast to your apology requirement. Enjoy your new baby and family. So, here's where it gets bad. MIL had already put her finger into the newborn's mouth. My goodness. Just walk/run away from her. Greetings from the other side. I signed back into this account the other day and was reading through my old posts and realized how far we have come in a seemingly short time. When I left I had a newborn and my MIL had done some crappy things around Christmas. She was constantly overwhelming me, aggressively contacting us and just ignoring every boundary we tried to put in place. Shortly after that I realized I was experiencing PPA symptoms and my MIL was exacerbating them. I was getting anxious just reading other people's crappy MIL stories, so I decided to take a break, and then that break turned into over a year. Not a lot has actually happened over this time. We have had a few moments where she has sucked, but nothing crazy. Luckily we were still pretty locked down from COVID, so I was mostly able to avoid her for a while. We did outside quick visits for a long time and would FaceTime occasionally. I learned to tune out anything she had to say, as it served me no purpose to get upset about everything that came out of her mouth. Once we started doing indoor visits and our baby got older and we felt safer, my MIL would come over every other Sunday for like an hour. I hated it at first and stressed significantly leading up to it. I would overthink everything she might say or do. I realized a lot of it was the PPA. My therapist helped me reframe the visits and, instead of dreading them, use them for time to yourself. So when she came I would kindly see myself out and go work out or take that time to run errands, get a coffee and listen to a good audiobook. My husband was obviously there with her. My MIL will never babysit or be alone with my daughter. She will never be an emergency contact or on a pickup list. We have established important people in her life for stuff like that, people we wholeheartedly trust and have been our village the last year. Creating those lines that won't be crossed really helped me overcome a lot of the anxiety I felt regarding her. Now she hasn't been without incident. No one changes overnight, and I don't necessarily think she has changed at all, but being in my daughter's life is important enough to her to actually behave. My husband and I had a tough year adjusting to parenthood. Our marriage suffered a lot and we have had to work really hard to get back to a good place. Worrying about my mill constantly was just not in the cards for me. After Christmas I think she realized she couldn't steamroll us however she wanted. Now if she does something we don't like, then we just take a break from visits. If you read my previous posts, then you know she loved to ruin events. My daughter's first birthday and christening was our first event after COVID. I had some anxiety surrounding them, but I also didn't give her any opportunity to even be involved. Some irritating thing she did was ask if I needed anything before the party. I said ice. She told me to ask someone else for that. She showed up early even though she had nothing to bring with her, so I told her she would have to wait outside or come back in a half hour when the party started. Otherwise, party was fine. Her christening was the next day and we had a lunch planned after at a restaurant in the town I grew up in. Christening was fine, but at lunch she was behaving like a child. Dismissing the staff, scoffing at the food and saying it tasted like a DR office. I told her if she couldn't behave like an adult I was going to ask her to leave. We took a month break from her after that. Gifts have subsided, and if she does bring something it gets donated. The only other things she did that crossed lines were try to take over Mother's Day and Father's Day. Both times husband shut her down, but she kept trying. She didn't see us on either day, and Father's Day resulted in an actual argument between my husband and her, and we didn't see her for a while. Her and I will never have a good relationship, that ship has sailed. But this works for us and is manageable. I truly thought we were doomed to end up in a never-ending battle with her, but we aren't. We have the tools to handle her, and I've learned to not let everything be a mountain. We will struggle with her more in the future, but she no longer lives rent-free in my head. I reread the history and saw there were 2 traumatic events happening shortly after Dee Dee's birth which might also contributed to the PPA. But I'm so happy you have come out the other side and have your cat herding, MIL management skills on point. Hoping everything keeps getting better. I like the reframing advice. And congratulations on the progress. I'll bet it feels good to evict her from your head. Thank you. Yes, it feels really good. I still get anxious about her from time to time, but it's significantly subsided and I don't think about her constantly like it did before. The reframing suggestion was huge because I use it in a lot of different areas of my life now. I'm hoping maybe someone else in a situation similar to mine might see a positive post about the future and it will help them, because I think I definitely could have used that a year ago. That's great. Can you explain the reframing suggestion? I hate giving my MIL any of my headspace. I hope to land where you are one day. I'm glad to read that your husband is 100% on your side and things have settled down greatly. It took me having to ask my ex to handle his sister who was like this. She basically tried to take my son from the minute he was born. The only problem was that he tended to escalate things. It sure got her to back down though, so I'll take that as a win. I'm sorry you've had to deal with that. I know how frustrating it is and I know how it can exacerbate your symptoms. I honestly think his sister caused my PPD or made it worse. Always remember that it's okay to go completely no contact as well. Hugs. I'll never understand why these people think it's okay to try to take over someone else's child. It's like they think that because they have a biological tie to the child, that makes it okay. These kinds of people are the ones like my ex's sister who tend to think that their way is the only right way. She was the same way. The attention had to be on her 100% of the time or she wasn't happy. Anyway, I'm glad to read that things are better. Always stand your ground and don't be afraid to. That's so amazing. I read some of your past posts and I hope I can grow a spine too one day. It must help a little that your DH is on board with you regarding his mom. Mine is enmeshed with his mother. Sad face. Yay. So much yay. Thank you. Hey, I remember your posts. I also went back and realized I commented on your MIL did not disappoint at your birth post. I hope you have continued to cherish your time as a parent. You've always been such a strong team with your partner. I'm so glad you have each other's backs, and your strength when you were posting in 2020 has helped make sure boundaries were established. You are so right when you say how far you've come in a short period of time. Your children will thank you in time for protecting them from crazy and for being wonderful parents. Take care of yourself and your family. Best wishes for the future. I am a mom and I agree setting limits is good. However, I don't like drama. This does look like a drama moment. Your mother-in-law does love your family. If she limits babysitting, maybe her physical abilities aren't as good as yours. I always thought I would take on my grandchildren like my own children. I soon realized when I was holding my granddaughter I was not able to physically to do the same for my grandchild. I can't stay up past 10:00 p.m. that I am very strong, just not able to physically able to take care of an infant for many hours. Sounds bad but true. Preserving your relationship with your mother-in-law is important to your husband as well. It will make a difference in your marriage. Be kind and understanding. Love and be loved. MIL told me to go ask my parents. I grew up in foster care. So, my 25F husband, 27M, and I are one of the few, lucky, people in our generation who have managed to find an apartment of our own that was affordable and could live on our own. All of my friends live with their parents. Our luck ran out with all of this inflation. Then I lost my job and essentially became locked out of the job market because of the combined childcare shortage, increase in rent, increase in childcare costs, and decrease in pay, since only my husband works now. We had savings, but that's all gone. We've got about 2 weeks left in our apartment. I will always put my kids, 6F for F, ahead of my own feelings and situation. So I told my mill, who up until now I've had a pretty okay relationship with, though we did clash a lot when we lived together a few years ago, that we'd be evicted soon, and asked if we'd be able to stay. In my city, if you get evicted, that stays on your record and you will probably never rent again, or pay much more than you should. It's expensive to be poor, and we have 2 evictions within the span of 2 years. We avoided getting kicked out the last place, but our luck ran out for this one. Anyways, she says she will only take the kids, and that my husband and I need to find somewhere else to go. Apparently, later, my husband confronted her, and she amended it to say that he could also stay. I alone would have to find somewhere else. As I stated earlier, all of my friends live with their parents. I grew up in foster care, and while I was able to find both my parents, my mom lives 3,000 miles away, and I literally just met my dad 2 years ago, and we barely talk past saying hi, how are you? Neither of our relationships are strong enough that I can rely on them for anything. Despite knowing this, when I confronted her about leaving me out, but not my daughter who is with another guy, who I had before I met my husband, she says that I'm not her responsibility, and that I need to go ask my parents instead of putting it all on her. This is essentially telling me to go live in my car or on the streets. We have an eviction crisis in my city, and shelters are overwhelmed, so I'm unlikely to have any shelter. We of course got into an argument, and I said some things that I shouldn't have. I told her that her kids hated her. Unfortunately, for some reason I feel guilty about saying that, so I sent her an apology text from my husband's phone. She's blocked on mine and will remain that way, but told her that under no uncertain terms will she see my children after what she said to me. I still don't know what I'm going to do, but it is what it is, I guess. My husband said she would help with rent, but quite frankly I don't want she from her. I know that's petty, and my husband told me as much, but that's how I feel. Get a job working third shift so you and husband can trade childcare duties. It will be difficult, but that's what needs to be done to survive. Third shift factory work is pretty much always hiring anywhere in the country. There's also third shift at hotels that's always hiring. She sounds horrible, and I wouldn't let your kid stay with her unless a homeless shelter was the only other option. I am a single mom and got childcare covered by applying for Callworks. If you have no job and a child, you should qualify. They will pay for your childcare while you work. That should cut out the biggest problem you seem to be having by having to be choosy about your work to fit around the schedule. If you are poor enough to get evicted and have no other options, you'll qualify for welfare and they will help with the childcare while you get back on your feet. This really isn't a just-a-mill problem, TBH. In my state, all adults in the household must work. I think I mentioned earlier that I have applied for help, it just hasn't come. Woo-woo. I'll help my son, the children, but not you. That's literally / essentially what she said. Talk about exclusionary. Your partner's completely on your side, right? I agree with you. I don't think I'd even want her money, either. Well, he said what she said was wrong, but then said he'd still accept the money because he didn't want to be homeless. When I countered that that was literally what she said should happen to me, he said that that was wrong, but that he would still accept it. I'm still deciding on whether that's grounds for a divorce, but I'm conflicted still. I feel disrespected, but it would be better for us to stay in the apartment. I did tell him if he lived with her once we got kicked out that we would be getting one. If you want to put your kids first, put your kids first. Being homeless is worse than living with their grandma, even if their grandma isn't the best person ever and doesn't want you around, unless they will be abused in any way there. If that was the case, though, you probably shouldn't have considered it in the first place. If you can't find a way of not being homeless, at the very least don't take your kids with you. Make a plan, get a gym membership for showers, start looking for shelters now. Since you won't be needing to give child care, look for work and save up. Consider moving somewhere cheaper, if your husband can transfer his job or find it somewhere else. You can do this. But please, keep putting your kids first, even if it isn't fair to you. Small RV, travel trailer, camper would be ideal to look into as a temporary living situation if necessary. I wouldn't rely on them at all. This may sound harsh, but it's time to stand on your own 2 feet and figure out what to do without moving in with her. What training do you have? Prior work experience. My husband and I have worked opposite shifts for years to limit our needs for childcare. There are so many places hiring and paying well above minimum wage. They might not be your ideal job, but you need to pay the bills and keep a roof over your kids' heads. Find a job working nights or evenings if your husband is on day shift. You need to make this work to keep your kids in a home. It will be hard, but you can't afford to stay home and not work. When she is too old to live on her own, I hope she looks to you for help so you can look her dead in the eye and suggest she ask her parents. This might be an unpopular opinion and I understand wanting the best for your kids, but is there some alternate solution you can find? Even if it's renting the basement of someone else's home while you look for work. With your husband's attitude and the way she's acting, I'm afraid she'll try to alienate your kids and she'll try to claim you abandoned them and willingly gave them to her. Also, I would never abandon my spouse to be homeless or expect my children to abandon their spouses unless I thought they shouldn't be in their life, abusive, violent, etc. There is something fundamentally wrong here, and I really don't understand why your husband is not trying to find an alternate solution. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.